Okay, Ben, so what are we playing today?
Well, Kelly, we are playing Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age, on the Nintendo Switch. Not a Final Fantasy I ever played. It seems to be a bit of the black sheep of the family. If anyone was a fan of the series, this seems to be the one that they missed out on. It came out on PS4 last year, I believe, or with all kind of modern treatment, upscaled, up-res assets, upscaled resolution, things like that. And it's finally been ported to the Switch, and I believe the Xbox One as well. And these are very much the definitive versions. They've got a load of extra features, and from everything I've heard, it makes the game a little bit easier to play now. I've got about just under 21 hours in the game now, and it's good. I think a lot of that time has been spent grinding. I did play this on across a couple of long haul flights, and I was half asleep, so a lot of it was kind of the mindless grinding. But I'll show a little bit of a new game off and then jump into one of my save files to show off some of the more advanced systems as the game opens up, because I think it takes about 5 hours for this game to really open up in true JRPG fashion. So when you start a new game, actually, there's quite a lot of different features and functionality, vibration, screen shake, subtitles. I normally keep them off for a more cinematic view. Y-axis, I like to have inverted, and it's got other things. But one thing that's quite cool. So you've on the confirm button, you've got like Japanese or Western.
Yeah, that's
I'll keep it as Japanese because I've been playing it like that anyway, and I think that's what the Switch normally has anyway.
Yes.
Speed mode multiplier. Now, this is a really cool feature, if not a little bit of an odd feature. You can basically tap the L bumper on Switch, and it plays the game in double speed or quadruple speed, and it basically just makes the grindy parts a little bit easier to bear. I actually really like it. I played most of the out and about fighting in double speed. It's quite good. Language Japanese if you like the original. Music's a bit unusual. You've got the original you can have, reorchestrated, which was for, I think it was done for the remasters that we're playing, and then the OST, which I don't really know the difference between them, but there's different soundtracks for real enthusiasts for this game. There's a few more options when you actually start the game as well, but we'll just jump in now. And right off the bat, this feels like a far more adult Final Fantasy than what we normally get. It feels like Game of Thrones light. It's far more political, far less about angsty teens doing shit. It seems to be more about kingdoms and politics and wars and empires. And it's cool, like straight from the off. There's no real wind up or build up. It just kind of goes straight into things, and I'm really, really digging it.
Yes, it's nice there. I noticed it point out that it was a city of Rabanastre.
Yeah,
so it does seem to link different games together.
So this takes place in the Ivalice kingdom or area, which is the setting for the Final Fantasy Tactics games. So it does link into them, but you know, me and you both play a lot of 14, and we can now go to Rabanastre as part of the 25-man raids. And this it all kind of takes place. So Rabanastre, Ivalice, and Eorzea all seem to take place in the same continuity, although thousands of years apart.
I can imagine this being impressive on the PS2 when it was.
I think it's impressive how good it looks now, and I know it's all been redone and retouched up, but these are FMVs. I don't imagine these have been changed too much beyond just making them a higher resolution.
In the presence of these holy relics, I hereby pronounce you man and wife from this time forth. May the blessings of the gods light your path for all eternity. Far on.
I think what's interesting about this one as well is it seems to be like the first of how the modern Final Fantasies play. It abandons kind of that traditional turn-based battle system.
By both land and air, our kingdom will stand little.
Nabudis has fallen.
Impossible.
My father? I know not. I am sorry.
If Nabudis has indeed fallen, it is only a matter of time before they reach the borders of Dalmasca. There is nothing to halt their advance.
Secure Nalbina with all haste.
I will go.
And I will go at his side.
So one of the kind of strange kind of complaints about this game is that the storytelling's a little bit uneven. I've not seen it yet, but I'm probably about a third of the way through the game. But I understand that originally the guy with the long blonde hair there, Bash, he was written as the main character.
Okay.
He is not really the main character anymore, though. I would say there's kind of three. The game takes very much through the eyes of one character in particular, but there's two other characters, Bash being one of them and another character on top of that being the main focus.
So he was the main character for a Japanese version?
Just not even for the Japanese version, just as they were developing the game. And I think halfway through, I think it was quite a troubled development. And I think the writing shifted as different people came onto the project and took the lead.
Yeah. So is this our main guy?
No.
No?
Not at all.
I haven't played it either.
The other main character is his wife, the princess.
Okay.
So one thing that also strikes me is that magic takes a bit of a backseat in this game. It's far more technology. I mentioned that they seem to take place in the same kind of continuity as Final Fantasy XIV and the Eorzea and the Empire in there. The Empire in this game seems to have a lot in common with the Empire in 14. They're not the same Empire, but they've got similar armor and like black kind of ornate armor and things like that. Especially there's characters called the Judges, who one of the Judges is actually the logo for this game, which is what we saw on the main screen. Sorry, they're very much like the armor the Imperial generals wear, like Xenos and the Emperor and Gaius Van Balasar wore.
Mm-hmm. It's a big armor.
Big ornate armor, lots of horns and shoulder pads.
So does that explain why he's not the main guy?
Yeah. It's kind of, I mean, this is like a really long cutscene, and as far as I'm aware, it has very it's almost like a prologue to what actually happens. Like the game completely hits the ground running. Which I quite liked, because often enough there's a lot of build-up in Final Fantasy games. I mean, 7 starts with like the assault on the reactor, but after that there's a long period of downtime and rebuilding up, and then in 8 it's all about passing your exams to become a mercenary, whereas this is just kind of boom straight into it.
No, it's good to get straight to the action.
One thing I really like is all the kind of the evil empire in this game. I say the evil, the villains of the piece. All their airships are named after summons.
Oh, okay.
So summons have taken a real backseat in this game. I'm saying 20 hours in, I've got one summon, and it's not one I'm familiar with. I think it might be new or specific to this game.
So when you say magic's not got too much of a part, but it still keeps the name.
It still plays part in the gameplay and the battles and stuff, but it's, in terms of story, less so.
Was now quite lost. Dalmasca had been set adrift at the mercy of history's restless tides. At this time, 2 great empires struggled for dominion over Ivalice. Arcadia in the east, Rosaria the west. The invasion of the Kingdom of Nabradia was Arcadia's first step in its westward march.
I wonder if this is based on
With Lord Rossla's beloved home
Japanese history with the East and West.
it seemed clear that
Yeah.
Arcadia
It's even like a thin
like fate.
middle part.
Thin strip.
The fall of the fortress at Nalbina told the destruction of the greater part of Dalmasca's forces.
Is this Dalmasca in any other game?
It's in Final Fantasy Tactics, I think.
Okay.
So this Tactics and a little bit of 14.
But against the martial might of the Arcadian armies, they stood little chance of victory. Indeed, their defeat was to be absolute. Soon thereafter, Arcadia came forward, offering terms of peace, or, as one might rather put it, terms of Dalmasca's surrender. Lord Ramenas, King of Dalmasca, and my dear friend, had no choice but to accept these terms. It was, thus, only with reluctance that he set out for Nalbina Fortress, now under Arcadian occupation, to affix his seal to the Emperor's Treaty of Peace. The king had scarce departed his royal city of Rabanasta when the remnants of the Order made their return, and not a moment too soon, for a terrible revelation awaited them. The treaty would be signed with steel and writ in royal blood.
You there.
So now you're kind of starting the game.
Okay.
It's as I feared. They're slowing us down.
Do not say that. Not all of us are here for love of battle. He fights to defend his homeland. Your name?
Rex, sir. My name's Rex.
Good. Rex. You bore a few cuts, but you are still whole. Well, can you stand?
So this is very much kind of the tutorial area of the game. It's going to teach all the systems, and there are a lot.
17, sir.
It's pretty gentle in terms of systems, though. Like I say, it takes about 5 hours for the game to really open up.
Sir.
So are we Rex?
2 years younger than I.
No?
Not only for this bit.
So young.
The game's pretty happy to get rid of characters.
You shouldn't be forced to wield a sword.
No, sir. I want to fight. For my homeland. And for my parents.
It's time, Bosch. Save the discussion for later. We must reach the king before they act, or all our efforts will be in vain.
I'm aware of the situation.
We found them! Over there!
Bossel, go ahead.
I will handle this rabble.
Godspeed.
Steady, Rex. Keep your wits about you and you'll make it. We move!
Right,
Off we go then.
finally. So you can tilt the camera. Isn't that good? So you can actually kind of like pull the camera out, almost like an old school isometric kind of view, which is quite nice actually. What else can
So not everything's voiced.
Not everything's voiced. It's probably, again, compared to 14, because that's what a bit of a touch point for me and you is, like, all major cutscenes, everything are voiced, talking to people in towns and things, not so much. From what I know about this game as well, is the whole script was translated by just, in English from Japanese, just by 2 guys.
Oh wow.
Because they wanted to keep it consistent with the tone.
Yeah.
So, and there's a shit ton of dialogue. So it's, I mean, there's nothing in here that's particularly for like new, or I mean, this in the end of the game, this is a 15-year-old game. it's fairly standard RPG type things, JRPG type things. But one thing that does strike me is it's aged really well. I think it looks really good still. When you think this is a PS2 game, I know it's had a bit of a facelift, but still,
It does look good. I think I was shocked when you originally said PS2. For some reason, I thought it was PS3, but yeah, it looks good.
it's the one that no one really ever played, and I don't know why, if I'm honest. So this is the battle system. Basically, it's kind of real time, and you can basically select different things. So if I select attack, go to select my target, the battle will play out. And my buddies will come and just wreck them now.
So do you control the buddies?
You can eventually, but not at the moment. They've got to be in your party. One thing, I pressed the wrong button. So yeah, that's the pause menu. But if you go into your menu, config. One thing that I did want to show. So you've got battle speed. So I mentioned before you've got the speed up button. That's something different. I am normally bumping up a couple of things. I think the battle speed's a little bit slow for my liking. I don't know if there's anything else.
So does that speed you and the...
It speeds everybody up. It just makes the tempo of the fighting a little bit better. But also if you press the L1 button, like I said, you see in the top right corner there's like a double fast forward arrow.
Yeah.
It makes the game literally play in double speed.
I briefly saw you move quickly there.
So I've got it set to 2x speed at the moment. 4x speed's another option, but it's a bit too fast. The game's blatantly not designed for it.
Yeah, perhaps when you're traversing across.
I think if you're just hanging out in like a desert area, which is open and wide and grinding, yeah, fair enough. But 2's better for general play. So this is 2x speed. So I've just slowed it down there. So if you look, there's like an attack bar filling up, and when it fills, it goes in action, and your character will do whatever action they've got queued up. So if I go to magic techniques, I've got a cure to heal me. I've got a thunder. It's all this typical Final Fantasy magic: thunder, thundara, thundagra, stuff like that.
So do you have to? So if you just wanted to constantly attack, would you just have to press attack once?
Yeah. So once you give them a cue, and when I go, I'll show my my later game save file. I'll just speed it up because this is a bit of a tanky boss. Really, I think it's just to get you used to the mechanics of fighting. There's a system called the Gambit system, which lets you program your party to fight for themselves, and it's basically kind of like an when and if statement based system. It is literally programming your party. So like when ally goes under 30% health, cast cure on them.
Oh, that sounds really good.
Yeah, you can program it right down to the nth degree. I have found that you can sometimes lock your party in weird little loops. But and I'm not an expert in it by any stretch of the imagination, but it does let you kind of tool around. So like one of my characters who I've made a black mage, so she's my heavy hitting magic character. Oh shit. What I've done is basically like put a thing in: if enemy weak to magic or weak to fire, say, cast Fiagra on them. So she'll like scan for weaknesses and pick them apart.
Oh, okay, that is really good.
And at the moment, you'll see like I'm having to be a bit more manual with my targeting. So I'll tell my main character to attack, and he kind of stands there, and I've got to move him in range. You can set a gambit just to say attack target, and you can do like attack target with highest strength or highest magic resistance. And you can almost program you could say I have like an assassin type character who targets characters with the lowest health to finish them off quickly.
Yeah. Or
target your mages to tackle those who have the lowest magic resistance, so they hit them the hardest and things like that.
So you're going to show us that later on?
Yeah, I'll jump ahead once we get through this opening bit.
But is it quite tricky to do?
No, it's really easy. It's literally a drop-down menu, and it grows over time. So as you level up your character, you can expand the number of slots you've got for different commands, and you can buy from shops in game different like instructions to put in the lists.
Okay.
So it's very comprehensive, and it just gradually unfolds over the course of the game, so it doesn't get too overwhelming.
So it doesn't bombard you all at once.
No.
Quickly, Rex.
So I mean, to be honest, this is a very stripped down version of what most of them are, but the majority of the game is just going into dungeons and fighting loads and loads of enemies, having a bit of story, going into a town, buying, selling, getting some new missions. You've even got a mini-map with enemy placements on them, because it's not random battles in this game like it normally was. You've got actual enemy placement and like aggro lines of sight to worry about. If you press L2, I say L2, what is it on the Switch? LZ, you can also lock on enemies and circle around them. These are all things that are kind of in 14 to a lesser degree.
Yeah.
I'll just double speed it. And I find myself double speeding a lot on just the fighting because the fighting planes out's fine, but these kind of random enemies are like they're very much just henchmen to chew through. They're not the most interesting things. Boss fights are a little bit more involved. I generally play them at single speed and do a few more strategic choices around them. Our save point in typical Final Fantasy fashion, crystals. So yeah, like Bash is saying, basically they're kind of the places to save, places to heal. I'm not going to save just because we're at the beginning of the game, just for demo purposes. But they're pretty generously scattered around.
You're under pressure not to die now.
Yeah, because if you die, you do literally get kicked back to your last save game. Luckily, the game saves between every join in the map.
Right, okay.
Little time. You must go to the king. I'll handle these.
Fight well.
Let's hire Thunder out. So because there's three of them, what I think I'm going to have to do is probably throw a heal in there at some point. Maybe.
So did you block automatically?
Yeah, it's all stat based.
Okay, that's good.
So what I can do...
Do you heal between battles?
Yeah, so I am pretty much between battles at this point.
But not automatically.
Not automatically, although you can set gambits to say, again, like when you're when you or a team member goes below 90% health, throw a potion on them or something like that. You've got to be really careful with setting gambits up to deal with items because you can just hoover through your items so quickly. Because the AI has no concept of stock levels.
Yeah.
Your Majesty. Captain, why? Our king, what have you done?
The king intended all along to sell Dalmasca to the Empire. His Majesty was a traitor.
Captain, Seize the insurgent.
Well, so much for peaceful negotiations.
We'll never surrender to you. We are not cattle to be sold by a traitor king.
But the war is over, my dear captain. You have lost. Dalmasca is the property of the Empire now. And think, we intended to let you keep some of your sovereignty, out of respect. But now you've gone and ruined that. Haven't you, Captain?
We will never bow to you.
And the people of Dalmasca will hate you for it. Take the captain away.
Off you go.
So I get the distinct impression that even 20 hours in, there's not been that much story. There's a lot of combat in this game, which is why I feel like I keep linking it back into 14. Other than the setting, it does feel kind of like that gameplay loop where it's a lot more combat focused.
Yeah.
There's definitely a mission and like there's a journey that the party's going on, but I feel like a lot of the heavy hitting stories yet to come. it's kind of sowing the seeds at the moment.
So you're about 20 hours in. Do you know how much percent-wise?
I was speaking to Pete, our friend, and he played this game. He loves this game. He played it last year when it came on PS4, and he seems to think I'm about a third of the way in, maybe a little bit less. But he also said 20 hours for how far I am is probably pretty slow progress because I have been grinding a lot.
Half asleep on the airplane.
Yeah, pretty much.
Prayer for His Majesty King Raminas, ever merciful, a man devoted wholly to peace.
So what I'll do is, when we get through this section, I'll jump to my save file and show some of the gambits and things, because they're more the interesting thing, and I don't want to just spoil the story for the sake of spoiling the story.
Know also that Captain Bosch von Ronsenberg, for incitement of sedition and the assassination...
I think that's just like a really strong opening. I really
That
like
was
it.
good. It was unexpected.
It's like, I don't know, it just pulled you into like a big political situation. And I think there's a lot more going to come out of that situation later in the game, but I don't know. I'm just interested.
Dalmasca's surrender without terms was soon to follow.
So a little icon that just flashed up in the top left, that's like the auto-save functionality. So, we're nearly half an hour into the game, and this is the main character.
Okay, so who are we?
I know. Just a little more.
So, like, I get the impression from what I hear is Van, this guy, he's not very well liked. I don't really have much of a problem with him. I didn't really like the idea of him, but, like, because he's like this plucky kind of street urchin character. But to be honest, he's not really like that when you get into the game. He's actually quite like a level-headed, fairly deep character. Like, he's not just this kind of young, plucky, like, kind of slightly foolish guy like I thought he was going to be, because they always like putting that type of character like front and center.
Yeah.
Unless or the brooding teenager, they're the kind of two ones they get. He's got motivations and things like that, and he's not particularly slapstick or comic relief. He's a bit naive and a bit foolish sometimes, but no, I like him. I don't really understand the hate. Yeah, this is very much just
I'm quite liking that they're called dire rats.
Yeah.
They're big.
Oh, so I missed my steal. So yeah, this is kind of what I expected from the opening of Final Fantasy, kind of this slice of life. These are the characters. This is what they do. I really like the voice acting in this game as well. It's excellent, and there's a couple of well-known voice actors. John DiMaggio does a very early game side character, and I never remember his name, but the guy who is one of the main who voices one of the main characters. He does things like Devrim Kane, Destiny 2, The Crusader, and Diablo 3.
Oh, yeah. Urianger in Final Fantasy 14.
He's not Urianger anymore. He was originally, but they replaced his voice actor. They seem to replace a lot of the Final Fantasy 14 voice actors from the early game.
They did from Realm Reborn. I think from Heaven's Ward onwards, it seems to be the same.
Yeah, I think so. I think they finally got their shit together with their voice actors. So you see a lot of I can't remember what they're exactly called, but the crocodile-looking guys there in the raid, the Ravenastra raid from 14. I don't know what the big kind of pig-looking guys. I don't think we've seen any of them in 14.
No, they look new to me.
But you also get Vieira, the bunny girl, sexy bunny girls.
Your luck, peddler.
Oops, sorry.
Which way you're going, churl? What? My pouch! It's gone! The boy! Get out the way! Oh!
Foiled.
Yeah, the pride of the Empire there. So you spent quite a lot of time in Rabanastra in the early game at least. And it feels like a Final Fantasy XIV hub town.
It looks big. Is it quite free roam?
Fairly.
You've been stealing again. What happens if they catch you? We need you to be there for us, Vaughn. You're no good to anyone if you're locked away in a dungeon.
Oh, what? Am I the leader now? We're orphans. The first thing you learn is you gotta watch out for yourself. Come on, Pinello. You know it as well as I do.
I'm also really impressed with the facial animation on this for a PS2 game as well.
I thought that this money was the people of Dalmasca's property. The Imperials stole it from us, so it's only fair that we take it back. It's our duty as Dalmascans. Well, wasn't that what you said?
Yeah, but I never said anything about taking it back from me.
This is for that bread you took the other day. Just because I help Miguelo out every now and then, it doesn't mean that you get to eat for free too, you know.
I know that. You think I like living like this? One of these days, I'll fly an airship of my own. I'll be a sky pirate, free to go where I will.
So I'm assuming there's a Sid character?
Yes, I imagine so. Oh no, there is. I've met him. He's not what I expected, but he is in there.
No Biggs and Wedge?
I haven't met them yet.
Okay.
It might be a good idea to lend a hand.
I'm fully expecting Bahamut to be in the game as well.
So some of the ships are called summons.
So I've seen the Ifrit, the Shiva, Odin. I've seen them all as airships.
That's good. We've got to have them in somewhere.
Oh yeah. So you can actually have the map overlay. So the map's kind of broken into smaller sub maps.
Yeah.
So it's quite nice to have this map, and you can have a look around. You've got like a big full screen version of the map, and you can zoom in and stuff. And each one of these icons represents things like the sword's a weapon shop, the shield's armor shop, the pot is like a potion and consumables, the purple staff's magic, the scroll are abilities, so they're like non-magical attacks. The cup and the bottle is a pub, and the orange triangle's the gambit shop. And there's like the blue crystals are save points. The orange crystals are special save points. They're transporter crystals, so they act as save points, but you can also teleport between them using teleport crystals.
Okay, I was wondering if that's what the blue ones did as well.
No, they're just save points. They're the very basic version, but so I mean that's the opening of the game. To be honest, you start kind of going into long-winded setups and stories and stuff at the moment. So what I'll do is I'll press the wrong button. I'll just back out to the title and load up one of my later game saves. I don't think I'm anywhere particularly interesting here, but
you can see more of the system.
Yeah, I'm just going to throw a shot at the game. So this is about 20 hours into the game. I've got a far stronger party. I've got all the party members now. I keep pressing the wrong button. So I've got my full party now, so you can only have 3 people out at a time, but you can switch between them easy enough, and you'll see Fran's now there. There she is. She's the Viera sexy bunny girl. She's the original. I've
got Bash back.
Yeah. So there's the two big things of this game, and so other than walking around fighting, the two main things are the license board, which are it's the job board, it's the job system from classic Final Fantasies. Everybody gets a blank board to start the game with, and you've got to pick a job. There are 12 jobs to align with the 12 signs of the Zodiac, hence why it's the Zodiac Age.
Oh, okay.
And I think I've managed to get them all covered actually. So I think originally in the original version of the game, you would pick a job for somebody, and that would be their job forever. You only got one chance to pick, and they only got one job. In this version, I think in the PS4 version, I think in the Zodiac Age, you could then double up on jobs. So everyone's got 2 jobs there. So Van's a Forebreaker and a Shiakari, which is essentially a warrior and a ninja.
Okay.
So he gets a lot of heavy hitting attacks and then can wear like high evasion armor and things like that. So he dodges, he tanks and dodges.
Yes.
So yeah, this is the job board. Now I've got quite a lot, so you can switch between the job boards as well, and some of them have overlaps. But basically, what you do is, as you kill enemies, you get license points. And if you look just below Van's name in the top left here, I've got LP and I've got 118. And basically, use license points to buy slots on the board, and that gets you abilities, gets you the license that you can use certain weapons and equipment. So 75 LP will get me increased chance to block with a shield, just makes you a little bit more tanky. You can buy the license to use different accessories. So it's basically just this kind of... it's like an evolution of the sphere grid from Final Fantasy X. I like it a little bit better, though. It's a bit more freeform. And when you get the ability to give people 2 jobs, which is maybe about 10, 15 hours into the game, you can double up and make them a little bit more versatile. I think the best approach is to pick a job that complements their other one or contrasts.
So this board here is purely Shikari.
Yes, but sometimes if I put say like Last Stand, that might also be in the Full Breaker board, and if I select it on here, it'll appear on there as well. So that's it basically. You can double up. So Van's very much my kind of physical tanky character. He uses the Full Breaker to wear heavy armor and take hits, as well as deal damage back, and he uses the Shikari to increase his evasion and do some extra abilities as well, linked with more the ninja style. Balthier I've got as a knight and a Bushi. A Bushi is a samurai, basically. They use katanas, and they're all about combos and fast hitting. So what the Bushi does is wears light armor with high magic resistance, but the knight has heavy armor with tankier physical resistance, so he can now switch between the two. They complement each other quite nicely for a frontline fighter. I've got Fran as my red battle mage and archer, so she can fight with a bow and throw spells from far away, as well as doing some support magics like a few heals and things like that. What I quite like actually is this is the archer board. It's shaped like a bow and arrow.
Yeah, you can see, yeah.
And she's got the red battle mage. What's interesting about the red battle mage is they can use shields and maces as well, so I can switch Fran into doing that. And it's just, that's kind of the system. And I mentioned before the Gambit system, these are Gambit slots, so as you unlock them, you're going to give people more and more complicated instructions. It's essentially a list of instructions, and I'll go into that next.
Okay.
But yeah, Ulan is kind of like a Dragoon. They use a spear and a machinist just to pad out some of his more ranged abilities and to cover. Bash kind of got the raw deal here. He was the last person I gave a second job to, and it was like, well,
what's left?
Machinist's the only thing I haven't got. Ash is very much my white mage, so she's a white mage for healing and things like that, which is a time battle mage to do things like slow, haste, do stat buffs like that. And Penelo is my monk and black mage. Now the monk is basically just there to make her a little bit faster, a little bit tankier, so she doesn't just blow up when an enemy looks at her. And the black mage makes her my heavy hitting spell caster. So you can switch out people as you go, and it's good. I like the system. It's good. One thing that you've got in this version of the game as well is previously, when you give somebody a job, that was their job for life. Now there is a place in Dalmasca you can go to that lets you strip somebody's job board off them, and you get all your license points back, and you can completely respec them from the ground up.
Okay, that's good.
So Gambits are probably the most intricate part of the game. Ash is probably one of my more complicated characters. So this is pretty much what the Gambit system is. You give somebody an instruction, so basically when she gets below 50% MP, I've told her cast herself an ether, it's an item that will restore her MP, so she should be self-sustaining as long as I've got ethers in my bag.
Yeah.
And I've said if an ally is just below 100%, cast Shell and Protect, so they're always a little bit more buffed against damage. Both, I think Shell is magic and Protect is physical. If they go below 80%, throw regen on them because it's like a heal over time. If they get below 60%, throw a cure on them because they need an instant heal. If they get below 30%, throw a cure on because it's a bigger heal. If they go down, raise them. Whoever's the main tank, because I usually play as the main tank because it's just more what I'm used to, cast slow on that target to make them deal less damage to the main tank. And then just if you've got no other options, start batting away at that person with your staff.
Yeah.
What's quite good, and I haven't really messed around with it though, is you can have second and third lists of gambits to activate, so you can cater to different situations without having to reprogram during a fight and then again back to what you want normally after. So that's really good.
Does it do these in order?
You can change the order. So
I was just thinking if the allies' health is less, is say 50, would it try and do the 100% because it's less than 100 then the 180?
yes, it would actually. So that's probably a good
lesson.
a good lesson. And as I said, I've got some of them trapped in like weird loops before. And I'm trying to figure out how to avoid some of those things. So you can turn things on and off as well. So yeah, I found Penelo. She can put people to sleep and blind them and silence them. The trouble is, and I think I've just messed up that one. I found it that she was getting in a loop where she was just constantly throwing sleep on people who were immune to it. And just it wasn't working, so she would go down a list and she would hit that option again and do it again, just burn MP. And I'm trying to figure out how to avoid that. I haven't seen any option to say like if immune, don't cast it, or anything like that.
Unless it's something you can buy later, maybe.
Possibly, because I mean, if you go into the options, so these are all the different categories. I'm still missing huge amounts of categories. So you even go down like if the foe is flying, because certain weapons are better against flying. So the bow, the guns, and spears are all really good against flying, but like swords and axes miss most of the time. I don't even know what that category is. And then these are like self ones.
So do you have a limit to the amount of gambits, or is it just the amount that you buy?
In terms of slots?
Yeah.
There probably will be a limit, but it all ties into your license board again. So I can buy extra slots here, and that's a 1. So you're probably talking, I don't know, 12 or so slots and 3 sets of 12 for different situations. The reason I haven't really bought many with Van is because he's pretty tanky at the moment and deals a decent amount of physical damage, but he hasn't got much in the way of abilities that he would use. Actually, I'm going to buy Libra because that's always really useful. So Libra is an ability you cast on yourself, and it means you can see more information about enemies, health, weaknesses, level.
Oh, yeah.
So you know what you're actually getting into before you just charge in. What's probably the last thing that's worth showing? So I'll just double time it. Is maybe some more of the options that you've got in combat now. I'll tell you what as well, before we get into a fight. Press the wrong button again. World map. So these are all places I've been. I imagine you might go north eventually but you know, you get around alright.
Yeah, it's a huge area you've covered.
There's a lot of variation. I've been in jungles, forests, deserts, and now I'm in ice. Like ruins, castles. There's a nice variation of settings and locations. It's really good. It's very well realised. I don't know whether it benefits from the fact that it takes place in the same continuity as Tactics, and it's got something like pre-existing to draw from, but it's good. Right, so what else I've got is, you'll see below they're all their names. They've got like, and this is going to be so overkill before I do it, but I might as well show it off. They've got orange bars filled up.
Yeah.
So that allows me to do my quickening, which is essentially kind of like my limit break. And I'll be honest, the game doesn't really do a great job of explaining them, but it goes into like this weird combo situation where you can chain everybody's together.
Oh, right. Okay. Is that because everyone's got theirs available?
Yes, and you can unlock them on the job board to do different types of special moves, and each character can only learn a certain amount. This is going to be so dead.
I must endure.
And I think you can buy up to 3, and you get 3 bars as you fill up, and you can chain them in different ways and stuff like that.
This poor guy.
He's going to be so dead. It's what I found is fucking hell, 7,000 damage. So you see, when I get them, I get XP and 1 LP. Now, generally speaking, enemies are all worth 1 LP. So if you want to grind, it's often better to just fight low-level enemies that spawn quickly. Rather than go for harder enemies. You've also got levels. The levels seem less important in this game. In fact, there's I think when you beat the game, there's a few different modes open up. One is a new game plus, where you take all your characters and items and everything into a new game and start again just at full power. The other being a mode where you are stuck at level 1 and you've got to build your team intricately using the license boards to survive.
Okay, so you don't leave level 1.
You don't need to level up as long as you're grinding LP, and I know the two are kind of linked anyway, but it's interesting. If you have a balanced squad, you can generally get by a lot better.
So you've currently got Van as your main, well, as a person you're controlling. That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, so basically it's like kind of the last side. I could be Fran and hang back. I'll get Pinello out and Balthier. So now I'm Fran. You will almost always play as Van when you're in towns.
Yeah.
But when you're out and about, you can be anybody. Pinello is a proper, she's a proper newbie DPS for me at the moment. I want to stay clear of that little elemental thing because it is a beast. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty much the game, if I'm honest. Fran's my red mage, so she has a shit ton of stuff. So I can keep her at bay. Arcane.
So is there an armor system to it?
Oh shit.
You pulled it.
Yeah, let's go. So you can just hold L2 to run. Fran feels so much slower than Van. I think she's got long legs. Yeah, there is. So items play a big part in the game, actually. I'm just fleeing. She's silenced as well. Ugh. I hate that thing. It's already screwed me over. So yeah, you've got items. So you have a weapon offhand. Not everyone uses offhand. Different armors which have elemental buffs, different quirks.
Yeah.
So there's magic resist and defensive kind of properties. It shows you everything in the attributes towards the left. Accessories are a pretty big thing. The bangle. So that automatically gives you the ability Libra, which I've just learned with Van before, and that lets you basically scan enemies and say, hey, this guy has all these stats and weaknesses and things like that. So you don't even have to learn Libra if you equip the bangle. One thing you'll notice though is some of them are grayed out, and it's because my character just can't use them, and you'll need to get the license to wear the gauntlets, for example. You need to buy the license on the license board to wear the gauntlets before you can wear them.
Okay, so 2 steps.
Yeah, and it does get a bit overwhelming at first, but you kind of settle into it eventually. What I have been doing, because I'm lazy, is you can just click optimize on everybody and it'll scan what you've got in your inventory. But it definitely pays to upgrade people every so often, even if you're not paying too much attention. So I just bought Balthier, this Muramasa. How would you pronounce that?
I said Murasame.
Murasame sword, and he's hitting like a truck now. It's good. So yeah, there's equipment, licenses, and gambits. They're kind of the 3 tent poles of this game, and it just gets more complicated and as it goes on, but in a good way. And there's a real satisfaction in watching your party grow and become more and more powerful, and forming strategies around all the new abilities as you buy them. So yeah, I think generally really positive about this. I think it looks fantastic for a PS2 game that's been kind of just brought up to date. The story and the characters are really, really cool. The gameplay is really enjoyable. The fact that you can put in the double speed makes the kind of tedious aspects a lot less tedious. So yeah, I mean, this is £45 on Switch. I think you can get it a lot cheaper on PS4. I'd recommend the PS4 version if you can get that, because I think you can get that for about 15 these days quite readily. But the Portal mode on Switch is good as well. I think it runs at a pretty solid 30 frames a second anyway you're playing it. I think it's 1080p when you're docked, and just I don't know for a fact, but I would say 720, maybe a little less on handheld, but it looks good. The one thing about the handheld mode is it eats your battery. It just drinks the fucking thing. It just goes like that. I was playing this on a flight mainly, and I'm glad there was a power socket. The thing that on the plane, it had a USB socket, which I used a USB-C cable to plug into to charge it, and the battery couldn't even keep up charging over that. I had to literally get the adapter out and plug it into the actual power socket that was on there to get it to keep up. So yeah, I mean, that's Final Fantasy XII, really. I think it's really good. I'm going to continue to work my way through it, and I don't think there's much else to show, so we'll just bring it to a close.